second reading of our reading series this semester. We have two very good poets with us today who will be sharing their work of poetry and prose, talking a bit about their process and their work. We'll each give them, they will each have 20 minutes to share their work, and maybe the last 15 or so minutes there will be a question and answer in case the audience wants to ask questions. Maybe just a few reminders if you have not yet signed up for the raffle, please make sure you put your name with Keith. So up for grabs tonight is each of these authors' books. And we have a special raffle for Bring a Friend. So if you have brought a friend that has never been to a writer's center reading, make sure Keith knows that, so make sure your names are with Keith at the back, because that allows you a chance to win one of these very hard to get shirts from the writer's center. So make sure you have your name there. Okay, our first reader for tonight is Grace Chia. She's published several books, including a novel, The Wanderlusters, a short story collection, Every Moving Thing That Lives Shall Be Food, poetry collections, Woman Go and Cordelia, and a chapbook, The Cuckoo Conundrum. She's also edited the prose anthology, We Are Family. In 2017, Grace Chia was the writer-in-residence for the Toji Cultural Foundation in Korea and the Macau Literary Festival in conjunction with the University of Macau. She was also the first national NACNTU writer-in-residence from 2011 to 2012. I'm personally very excited to have Grace with us here tonight, and let's welcome Grace.
I just throw my voice because I don't have a mic. The last person can hear me, right? Okay. I've got 20 minutes, so I'm very organized. Okay. I brought a few books, and this will be the one for the raffle. That's the short story collection. And this is my debut novel called Wanderlusters. Both these books came out last year during the Writers' Festival. And I'll be reading something from the short story collection because it's easier to read from a short excerpt than a novel. And I'll be reading a few poems from my poetry collection called Cordelia. And I'm also coming out with a new book this year, so I'm very happy. I like it. Okay, a few things about me, I guess, just to introduce myself. I started writing poetry many years ago. And my first published book was poetry. So I've been writing poetry for a very long time. And then I got into prose, not that I got into prose late. I think, I assume that a lot of you are writers here. And as you dabble with composition writing in schools and stuff, you try to find a genre that you're comfortable with. And poetry seemed to be a very good fit for me because it was very short, and it was very intense, and I like to capture short, intense moments into a poem. And I sort of then found my love into prose recently when I had more things to say, more scope to expand my narrative. And so then I started writing a novel first. I found I got stuck. So if any of you have problems writing novels and you're stuck, it's very normal. Then I got into writing short stories because I asked certain writers how I should go about doing novels, and basically the advice was try short stories. So I did, so that's how it came about. So I'm going to start by reading a poem, and then I'm going to read prose, and then maybe a poem, and then prose a poem. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask somebody to help me with reading a very short piece of dialogue. Can you help me? So anyway, so maybe at some point I can cue you, but so the highlighted ones.
Okay.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. But it will only when it gets there.
Okay.
So I'm going to start by reading a poem, and it's called Goya under the influence of a 1998 Shiraz Saturn II. If you know the painting by Goya, Saturn, yeah? So, you know, where, Saturn was eating his children, a very grotesque thing. So it's my reinterpretation. Last night, furiously, I downed a chalice of my own blood and grew heathen, Hulk-like, rampaging through the radioactive streets of a mental spell under siege, uprooted some forests, drained the lagoons, then taunted the volcanoes to boil over. They did. The planets realigned, the moon played hopscotch with his sister sun, while the dinos roared for the last time, then slept soundly, bone naked on a soft mound. Earth skated around the ring many times, while hapless Mars held on for the ride. Mammals on fours stood up to walk on twos. Metal-made blades was found to be useful. Tools caught food, raped, then made food, prostitutes for power. Politics bounced off the walls from meatballs to basketballs as mongers of jackals scavenged the remains of leftover suppers. Through all this, I peeled my ears to the ground, waiting for a thunderous walk, waiting for Colossus to mesh my brains. It didn't. In one drop of a crystalline tear, the labyrinthine stew of my brains was ravaged, swallowed whole. The alcohol for coherent self, my senses plummet and plunder. Starved, I gulch out entrails, pop an eye, then devour my organs. Next, I am going to read a short excerpt from a short story called Galaxies. So it's about worlds colliding. If I have a Galaxy phone and you have iPhone, our galaxies collide. So, the narrator is unnamed, and she's responding to a person whom I shall only call him A. He's like an abbreviated person. So, he was right about our systems not matching, about being from a different galaxy, a man living in the open yet hidden under the floorboards. So much falsity the entire time we were together. It was an adventure, a boy and a girl playing pirates and gypsies. We wanted to see who would walk the plank, jump off the ship, test the fool's courage. The game was romance. He was a gamer. I tried to outgame him. Thing was, he was skilled in the espionage of manipulation. It was subtlety he had always been using as a bait. I stood no chance. When I slapped him, it was all over. He didn't mind the slap. I had never done it before in my life. Never had violence been a part of my physical makeup except that day when he was grinding his groin on the dance floor with a hussy he had just picked up in my absence. It was all over for me. Watching him as he bent his knees to her knees, legs arched, their groins rubbing against each other, the music too fast a rhythm for the movement, my head about to explode, bad trouble surging bloodlust to each cell in my cerebrum, my teeth hungry for revenge. He didn't see me, didn't know I would be there. He was baiting for a fresh catch. I was spying on him. Sure enough, I caught the would-be spy in the heat of a lambada, aiming his genitals at a new female host. I had never felt more dead and alive at the same time. I went up to them, two dancing spiders in a copulating frenzy. I pulled the hair of the woman. She screeched. I pulled it so hard I peeled her body away from her mate. They disentangled. The disco strobe lights rained down on me. I looked cut up, polka-dotted, alien. In the dark, my white blouse was luminescent. My eye whites and gnarled teeth glowed.
What the?
The woman yelled, though her words were interrupted by mine. Shut up, skank!
Who the?
The woman lunged at me and my words drowned hers, for I was stirred by the kind of hunger her shallow protestation stood no chance. Get out of my face!
Excuse me, are you insane?
The woman continued, but someone had pulled her away. It was a female friend who had seen that I was about to start war, saving her. I was with you only last night. I turned to R and hollered with a surging rage like a beastly alien tearing me from within. Mind you, I was half his size. R didn't immediately recognize me. I had turned into an alien, ravenous, murderous, grotesque in every ugly sense. When passion takes over, consciousness is led to the slaughter. I was still bent on his knees in a short interlude of my dramatic hair-pulling of his dance partner. The music was feverish, pumping shots of metallic snares my sharp ears had now picked up. Some bad vocalist was howling like a wolf. Sampled melodies of tribal chants and the breakbeats of DJ Shadow filtered through the chorus. I looked around me, saw predatory, gleaming eyes encircling me. My heart was inside my eardrum, telling me to slow down, calm down, calm down. Then he saw me. His face could not lie. I caught a glimpse of regret and compassion before I sent my hand flying into his cheek. It was a great force. For someone much smaller and slender with hands that had never been calloused by labor, the slapping of R was a phenomenal event. The palm of my hand hit his cheek. His flesh wobbled. The meeting of our skins burned like hot stones. His jaw bone hard against the bones of my right hand, yet his face turned to the motion of my wrist, my arm, my shoulder, my torso, my posterior and spine that supported the entirety of my upper body. His head turned against his wheel sideways, then to the back, forcing him to face the opposite side where he had been. "I'm very sorry," R said when he recovered, looking at me with sadness. Everything inside me that had pretended the fling was a lie had come to a catharsis with one slap. Everything evaporated. He was, and probably wasn't, a spy. He did, and probably never did, find me special. Nothing mattered. Chemistry between two rotating, diverging galaxies strong enough to pull them together was not rational enough a cause for the devastating effect of heartbreak. He hadn't felt it, I told myself again and again. My passion had exposed me. He felt it, he knew it, he regretted it. It was in his eyes and the warmth of his arms as he tried awkwardly to hold on to me, this black widow, despite my assault, a plea for me to eat him alive. Okay, one more quote, short one. It's called Far Gone. Far gone. Your presence, kryptonite. I grovel, weak-kneed, eating earth, shattered. Thoughts, frosted to icicles. An igloo, I am, stoked by flames within the cavern. Between barred walls of my ribs, inside, a ball of blood threatens to erupt. Secrets of skeleton, in whispers, ghost words wrapped as candid curses. Every sentence you speak is aphrodisiac. A charmed scorpion, unstirred. I am fleeing through curtains and curtains of silken lies, a masquerade coven. I, exiled from myself, stuck in an outer universe, unmapped, unable to return, unhinged, a helium caricature, ungrounded, going up, up and away into the oblivion of a loopy, speechless echo. It's a very serious crowd. Okay, Ice Flower, another short excerpt. The protagonist is an undergraduate. Okay. And the person who is called Peter in the story is an exchange student. Okay. Exiting the taxi, I ran all the way to the seminar room. I wasn't the only person late. The lecturer had started talking about Henry Lefebvre and how space was something that could be produced to create political meaning and agency. Space. I was trapped in a room in a university on an island where space was condensed to the monotony of motions. Space was used for utilitarian purpose. Why is that tripping me? Anyway. Space in my world was the opposite of the space of infinity, of outer space, of black holes, worlds, and multiple galaxies. I knew only my cage and its metallic bars. I needed a projection, something beyond the present, beyond the lack of climatic seasons, the machinery of theorems and tests, beyond the train rides that turned me into one robot out of 100 robots in a capsule shuttling from one platform to another. I shut her voice out. My mind became still, peaceful. An image floated out of this serenity. Ice bloom. Ice bloom is a German word for ice flower, for this snowflake that looks like a flower. I smiled, took out my smartphone, and started texting.
Hey Peter, how's the vacation so far? Are you missing Singapore? Singapore misses you.
I paused as long as my courage could endure. I heard my professor's voice in the distance. I channeled her out again and returned to my phone, typing the rest of the message.
Pity we didn't have more time to hang out. Write back when you can.
I heard the rain pelting on the roof. The cold room started becoming unbearable. Goosebumps pimpled my arms. Be bold, be honest, I told myself. I signed off the message,
I miss you.
then pressed send. I froze. Did I just externalize my thought? Could I delete it? No, it couldn't. Did I just put myself out there, crystallize an idea that had been floating around formless in the air? I blushed and giggled softly. Outside, the wind whistled aloud. Foo, foo, I heard it say. I took Peter's picture of the ice bloom and made it my screensaver. Something blossomed inside me. I listened to the professor and smiled to everything she said. The rain droned on to an acoustic murmur, a symphony amplifying the sounds of nature, drowning the mechanical words of theory, intellect, skepticism, empiricism, ways to prove what exists with the whys and how-tos. The lecturer repeated, if you don't have enough points to substantiate your thesis statement, your argument isn't going to be very solid. In my private reverie, I rewound the scenes of the past, the private moments I had shared with Peter. I relished the jokes he made, even the awful ones that were meant to be humorous but turned out flat like roadkill. The more I reminisced, the more I turned Peter into something endearing. Maybe, just maybe, I had been focusing on the wrong side of him. I needed to examine him on the flip side, notch up more points to make Peter a convincing argument. What for? For the funny way he makes me feel, for the wistful way his face crops up in flashback, and I don't know why or how it happened. The rain seemed to have stopped. Someone opened the door to use the bathroom, and the sounds of laughter from the corridor spilled into our room. A giggle came from the back of the class. Sounded like a girl, flirting the hunkiest guy from the class who played rugby, water polo, and tennis. The jock who couldn't be ignored. He who had no fear or qualms about the limitation of spaces. All spaces, big and small, were conquerable to him. If the world were the Bermuda Triangle, he was enthroned in the middle of it. From the way he looked smugly at me, I was to him most definitely a square, like many others in his peripheral vision. Some spaces, even within the same plot, would never overlap, never connect. Sometimes it took imagination to leap out of the ordinary, to muse over shapes and spaces you couldn't quite grasp yet. These were unknown territories, unfittable puzzles, seasonal eccentricities. The lecturer finally cracked a joke, a dry, lame, witty joke about I don't know what, and 3 people laughed. My phone beeped with a new message. It was Peter. There were only 2 words. It read, "Me too." got just enough time for one last poem. And it's called Made in Singapore, I Cordelia. Was it your pride, Father, that kept you spitting out reams of a gilded river, lavished on the shallow utterances of daughters who loved you least? If the myth were true, imagine, we as spawn of the grotesque, sprouts of the beast's fecund underbelly, legions of unceasing worker ants, a seminal mess of a mercenary mess, we claim this dot, now, hence, hereafter. This is our lot, our blotch, our orgiastic spot. I will root for you, Lear, when in years you age, sputtering still, nonsensical diatribes of how best to run the house in order. I will weep for you, your majesty, reminded of how your humble hubris of your limited vision blinded you to the loyalty of a uterine Yale-NUS. Be proud, Father, be very proud of your homemade hybrids, your pure lily-white curdled cubes of roboistic square thoughts. You made us machines, plucked us the wrath of the lightning gods. In this debris of consumerist molehill trash, I will search for a soul somewhere and fish for the skeletal remains of a barely recognizable amphibious feline. The legend that branded me my anthropomorphic marquee name. That's it.
Our second reader tonight is Rodrigo Dela Pena Jr. He is the author of 2 chapbooks, Requiem and Hymnal. His poems have been published in QLRS, Singapore, Rattle, Dikhaan, Haydn's Fairy Review, and other journals and anthologies. He's received prizes from the Don Carlos Palanca Memorial Awards. He just received another one last week? No, yesterday? Yesterday. He's won it twice. That's one of the biggest awards in the Philippines. He's also received awards from the Coco Guevara Poetry Competition, British Council, Meritage Press, among others. His first full-length collection, Aria and Trumpet Flourish, is forthcoming from Math Paper Press. Let's welcome Rodrigo.
Thank you, Larry, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. So I write poetry. I'm going to read some poems for you tonight. The first poem, I think, will be an introduction about me, aside from what Larry said. It will also show my fascination with forms. So this poem is written as an abecedarian. An abecedarian is written in such a way that, the first letter of each line corresponds to A, B, C, and so on. Okay. Hometown. Apatut, Bulbulala, Kabiling. The familiar names of barrios roll off the tongue like a secret language. I was born in Camilo Ocias, near the town center, renamed after Balawan's dear illustrious son who became senator and translated into English our national anthem. Land of morning, the sun rose above fields of rice during the rainy season, tobacco in summer. Grandfather's name was a golden ticket, one that guaranteed hospitality, front row seats at the plaza come fiesta time. Instead of fast food outlets, we trooped to Tres Hermanas for noodles, jukebox playing records of the 70s and 80s. A few kilometers away, the crags of South China Sea, waves licking the shores of Parawir, where we once owned a beach house. Much later, we left town My father imposing self-exile, never to come back until after he died, ashes in a marble urn. Our orbit remained around Palawan, La Union, with gossip passed along the grapevine of how relatives bickered and quarreled over small-town politics. What does it mean to return when in all those years of being elsewhere, our hometown stayed in our mind, the tug of memory holding us no matter the distance? Weeds overran my mother's garden while ungathered fruits fell from trees, overripe and heavy, their sweet decay veiling the house we left empty. In another part of the world, the cold burrows into your bones, and each night you look at the map where X marks the spot, a satellite view of the streets you walked, the church you went to as a child. It is as though you still live in the time zone, sun-drenched at this hour, the pinnate leaves of mimosa opening. Okay, so my next poem is part of my ongoing project, which is about the search for the divine in the everyday. So this is called Hymnal. It's actually a sonnet sequence, and the poem is unpunctuated. I wanted to mimic, how people pray, pretend to be unfiltered. So this is the poem. Hymnal. The God of all grace, the God who rumbles as thunder but also whispers as waves, the God who saves and does not save. Tell me if you can hear me too, or are you busy listening to the lament of others who perhaps need me more than I do? With my little ones, what I want to know is how do you weigh each question, each plea, each prayer mumbled before sleep to consider it enough for an answer? I'll never know your silence, although I'll keep on asking and looking for your face and straining to hear your voice in every sound. And there is nothing but God I need to know. If you are the creator, then I am what you created. Flesh, blood, and bone, hair sprouting from my groin. The itch I feel is that you, God, you are the bread, the riven body, risen Lord. Create the scab to cross my wound. Your hands can heal, and yet, you also let the body fail. You let the sea churn waves that topple homes. You flood the streets with endless rain, or else withhold the rain for many months. If you indeed are the creator, then why bring forth the serpent tongue? Why make the poison ivy climb? All these questions, mere footnotes in your book. Why cancer in my father's lungs? This morning, are you the bee in the garden, flitting from flower to flower, searching each fold of petal for a drop of nectar? Is that you, God, or maybe it is me, bee tracking tremors of color, flickering light, fast-flying birds? You reveal yourself as iridescent wings, beating faster than fruit flies, floating over orchids with furry lips and stuck-out tongues. You sting because you can, because the world must ache its way to joy. Of course, you're more than just this waggling bee, but it might be what I am to you, a bee lost in the garden, God, bee that makes honey from what it can gather. The leaves are leaving the branches, a storm of locusts devours the field, somewhere a star collapses into a hole where no light can pass. I wonder why you unmake your bounty, God, why you undo what is. Sometimes I'm filled with doubt why you exist at all, how random you are in your mighty works. You play with dice, you deal the cards, God, you're a gambler and you take the loss. Not that we have much of a choice, Louis, but I leave it up to you with the hope you let fruits ripen before they fall, before the worm gnaws its way into the gourd. Oh God, forgive my human heart. Forgive my unbelief. Another day, another night, it must seem like a blink to you, a single breath blown to the sky. You must be patient, God, if you are still here from the very start, when you alone had sparked the flame. It's good for you to stay this long, though are you waiting to end it all? When will it be? You count the days, you melt the ice, the burning lasts another day. What happens next is up to you and you alone. Thy will be done, thy kingdom come forever and never. You must be patient to light each day, while here I wait for all the days to end. The very end, God, I wait for you to snuff the fire. Okay. I'm going to read another poem about, that's part of this project. Okay. So the title is the first line of the poem. Filling a pitcher, I think of Augustine, whose words come to mind as water eases into glass. You must be emptied of that which you are full. And what are we really but the vessels where desire pours and could not help overflowing? I'm riddled with wants, each day a constellation of errands and meals, chores and tries the body can escape from. The saint knew it well, confessing to a life full of sin, pears stolen from an orchard when he had better ones at home. The point is not the fruit, not the pitcher. It's the way a hand plucked a globe from the branches, sweet with drought that called hunger, and how a palm is cupped to collect water gushing out of a cistern, so that you may be filled with that of which you are empty. Augustine continues, the reverse side of a coin. By the window, a tremor in the sky announces rain about to fall, heavy as a burden of clouds, the promise of flood. Only for a moment do I stop to turn off the faucet, aware of the world's thirst for all that is given, all that it seeks. Okay. My next poem is actually part of, I have another project. I'm fascinated with, or maybe obsessed with Jose Rizal, who is the Philippines' national hero. And this is one of the poems about him. Manifest, there's an epigraph. On May 3, 1882, Jose Rizal boarded the SS Salvadora and headed to Europe for the first time. 1. A pair of steamer trunks with iron locks, filled with clothes to be used for years before you'd be able to go home. 2. In your pocket, a silver watch whose crown had to be wound up each day. 3. Talismans worn smooth, tarnished medallion inscribed in Latin, green quartz egg, crocodile's tooth. 4. Names that weigh heavy on the tongue, names that would remain unspoken for time to come. 5. Sheaves of paper, a set of quills, India ink, the lengths we go to skirt around that which cannot be said. 6. Memory and its many ruses, wavering, like the flicker of shadows cast by the ship on the water. 7. A crucifix on the crook of your clavicle, pendant of what you struggle to believe in. 8. Series not yet seen, letters that have yet to be written, already vivid and pulsing in your mind. 9. Hands clasped and eyes looking ahead that seem to hold all the sea contains. 10. The horizon shifting as you move along, the world's edge never to be reached. This one is an ekphrastic poem, so it's a poem based on a painting. Okay, so the title is La Parisienne. Because the truth could not be stated plainly, Juan Luna paints her worn, looking and askew, as though the world had tired of her and she had nowhere else to go but be here on the canvas. Scarlet and ochre, deep color of rust, fading gold. The scene suggests no joy in the realm of La Belle Epoque. Instead, a woman whose disquieting gaze dares you to look at her without flinching, her downturned lips on the edge of what might be a confession. What secret is hidden behind the folds of her dress? What story? He tells her to stay still, hold the pose. El trabajo no está terminado. Years later, he would aim a revolver and in a jealous rage, kill his wife and mother-in-law at their home in Paris. The French court would acquit him on grounds of temporary insanity. By then, his work would be finished, sold to the highest bidder, and the woman in the painting stares longingly, fumbling for words, help, osez-vous, aidez-moi, s'il vous plaît, but no one is listening. Okay, I think I'll read some recent words. Okay. So this one is a poem that I actually wrote during the Singapore Poetry Writing Month, which is April. So in short, it's called Singapore. You can actually join the group on Facebook. Just search for Singapore. So they give you a prompt every day, and you basically write a poem every day for 30 days. Okay, so the prompt for this poem was, I forgot the prompt, but it's in the form of an anima methoda. It's a made-up form. Yeah, they make things up in that Facebook group. Okay. You did not ask to be born, but admit that you still wanted it. Life, the world opening to an explosion of light. Your amniotic mouth saying yes. Your hunger a beacon for your mother's breast. The milk itself a form of yes. Each drop becoming part of your flesh. Your hummingbird heart, fontanelle. Each part of you a yes. Bones growing, fusing into a single yes. As lines formed to make a poem. Your skin conversing with someone's skin. Tongue, a voice repeating yes. How else will you admit this want? This life you never asked for. What other choice did you have but to say yes? Language as explosion of what might be said as you open your lips and begin a breath with one syllable, yes. I'll probably read one last poem, which is an ekphrastic poem. So I do a lot of ekphrasis. You might have seen this in the National Gallery, if you've been there. So this is the painting. It's Georgette Chen's self-portrait. Okay, so she actually made two self-portraits that are displayed in the gallery, but this is the poem that the work is based on. Okay. After Georgette Chen's self-portrait, one day in your life will not be a day like any other. Life becomes a mirror reflecting your face, and for once you can see who you are. Your skin not as a mask, but as yourself. Your eyes meeting the gaze, not of your lovers, but your own. Your days dappling the canvas, each stroke of the brush exactly where it needs to be. The curl of your hair, your black cheongsam, smooth as obsidian. You close your eyes and paint a portrait, the absence of sorrow, the sorrow of absence. One day, you will open a window. You will see your face before you were born. Thank you.
We have a lot of time for questions. Some of you wish to ask either Grace or Rodrigo about their work. Should I start things off, or skip over the awkward silence before the other questions come in? I'm very intrigued by influence. What influences these two writers? What has influenced you at the start? What continues to influence you in the work that you do. Grace, I'm really in awe with the way you handle the body in your work. It's very corporeal and cosmic at the same time, you know. And it's interesting to think of the corporeal and the cosmos in your work when I listen to you, and the grotesque. It's very grotesque, you know. I love it. And I'm wondering, you know, where that started. And with Rodrigo, you know, it's if I think of Grace, it's in terms of the grotesque, it's the Baroque when I think of you, your work, the prayers, but also like the kind of lush language that you love. So I'm interested in, and maybe the student writers here would be interested in what has influenced you. Yeah.
Wow. There's a lot of adjectives on me. I must say that you were quite accurate in those adjectives you just sort of described my writing. I guess just to tackle with influences, let's just get it out of the way. The poet, I guess I still go to. I mean, my first degree is in literature and theatre. My master's degree was in sort of literature. It's called Contemporary Approaches to English Studies. So it's sort of like a deconstructionist theory, cultural studies, urban studies, a mixed bag of kind of academic studies. And so in that sense, I still go back to, I read a lot of poetry and literature, and I still go back to Silva. So she excavates the body. She's her own surgeon. She uses her body to tell stories, and I guess that very intimate, very grotesque, but she's also very reverential. I don't know how to explain it. She doesn't treat the body as something disposable. She has a lot of respect for the body. She almost examines it like under her own microscope. So I guess that is where I get my poetic sensibilities from. The writers I kind of like would be prose writers. I still go back to Milan Kundera, where he uses, he weaves philosophy and musings and reflections in between his fiction with this narrative. So that's one of the writers I go back to. T.S. Eliot, I love T.S. Eliot still. It's the poems about city, the rhythm, the musicality. I'm just going to talk in fragments because it's really hard to explain, to answer the question. I love music. I'm a big music lover. I don't play any instruments, so whenever I go for readings or I go for workshops, I tell people that, look, because my handicap is that I don't play the instrument, my writing is my instrument. I grew up in a kampong, so I didn't know why I don't like shoes, but my late mother told me that I never wore shoes when I was in kampong. So I pretty much am a very back to earth, very, I'm born in the wrong era, I should be a hippie. I just love the fact of, if it's a, if one can not wear clothes, I would be that person. So I love the aspect of going very right down to nature, of using the human body to describe narratives. So in that sense, my poetry informs my prose informs my poetry. The idea of using space. When you write poetry, if you're ever a poet, you will know that space is very important in the construction of a narrative. We all know that it's not just prosody. We don't just take sentences and chop them up. That's not a poem. It has to have meaning. It has to have metaphor. It has to have some kind of thing where it translates from the poet to the space. The space translates to the reader. So that translation of space is very important to me. So I hope to be very vivid and visual when I tackle my poetry. It almost is not just, I don't just like write a line and hope that somehow I'm watching a whole movie, or a movie that is also a nightmare, that's also a memory, that's a mix of everything, and then I throw in my body, I throw in the cosmos because I'm naturally trippy. I don't know why, so I don't know whether to answer the questions. And the grotesque part would be that I know that there's this, it's quite popular now for people to write speculative fiction. I don't think I'll ever really be able to do that effectively well, because I find that reality is quite grotesque in itself. I don't need to write something about the imaginary, sci-fi, because I find everyday living is quite torturous, to be honest.
Are you working with the same, are you grappling with the same concerns in your new book? As you mentioned, you have a book coming out.
Okay. Hopefully, if all the plans come through, I should have a new poetry book out by the Writers' Festival. That's the aim. It's already done. But as writers, we are never satisfied with our product. So I'm still hoping at the last minute that it will be just taken off my hands and that I will not meddle with it anymore. But hoping to have that. I just finished composing a novel as well, and I must say my themes work in and out. I'm born in Singapore, I'm Singaporean, but I've never really felt very much a person of the local. I feel global and I feel local, and I feel that my home is not really where I am. So even when I'm traveling and I'm coming back home, it's the same question that Robin was asking me, like, so how do you feel coming back home? And it's very difficult to answer the question, because I feel like a foreigner sometimes, even in my own body. So I don't know whether that is a sign of grotesqueness, that it's somehow the alignment. I'm still finding a way to align everything neatly. I'm not a freak, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Being human is freakish, right?
In terms of influence, I do read contemporary poets, but I think the poet who has most influenced me would be Luisa Igloria. She's a Filipino-American poet based in Virginia, but she writes about different things, but her language is very rich, it's very lush, and I think she's taken into task, one of the poet's essential tasks, which is to, describe the everyday and make it, sublime and extraordinary. I think that's one of the most important lessons I've learned from her. But I think I would like to mention, because you mentioned about the Baroqueness of it all. I am Catholic, as most Filipinos are, and I think we tend to have a Baroque imagination. We like our rituals, our singing. I'm part of a church choir, and some of my choir members are here. So, I do tend to be influenced by church hymns. I think in hymnal, I quoted or misquoted, some church songs. I think in the attempt to not really subvert, but to try to see something in a different light. So I think that comes into factor when I write.
Question. Larry mentioned about influence. I'd like to ask about the process. Like when you come up with a poem, do you start with the meaning? Do you have this stream of consciousness you like process, or do you start with form or structure, or do you start with the tonality of the words? How they come alive as a text. So I'm just curious how you started that. Yeah, start with Grace and then
every act of writing is very sacred to me, but that means that I don't need to be sequestered in my room to write. So I could have this very intense sacred moment, let's say even taking public transport, or even in the office or having lunch, I've written very intense, good poems. Good for me, meaning that I'm very proud of them. So how to get into the process is there has to be, I believe in inspiration. I used to be quite uncertain about it. People would say like, yes, you know, when you read interviews of writers and they'll be like, yes, you need to be very disciplined and do it every day. That works actually more for prose. Now that I've done both genres, prose, I have to have dedicated time to write. So for me, what works best for me is mornings and possibly nighttime. Mornings meaning when I'm sort of just awake and I'm still halfway in between worlds, and I just open myself to this very intense germination of feelings and a memory or an idea, and then I start with either an image or one or two good lines, and then I really just follow. And I describe this as being like a medium. I'm sort of like at my most creative moments, I'm literally just a translator. Sometimes I'm very surprised what I write, and I really don't know where it came from. So the medium part of me is translating whatever this cumulative influences, memories, good and bad, things that I've read, things that I've seen, things that I've heard. They just sort of ferments into this muse inspiration thing, and I follow. And I would say that now I'm a better writer than I was 20 years ago, because I have absorbed more, let's say, travels. I have absorbed more life experiences. I have absorbed more readings. I've understood myself better. So the fact that I'm a vessel for my muse means that I am better equipped with more things to say and more tools and more efficient way of writing than I was 20 years ago. So same way of doing it, like when you say stream of consciousness, I can still do that. But I would say that my stream of consciousness now, because of my experience in writing, is same as riding a bike or doing gym or doing martial arts. It's the fact that the aspect of doing it so many times that the skill set has improved, and I still don't really know how I got to do it. You don't really know how you know how to ride a bike. You just got used to it. It has become a habit as well as some form of skill. You can't really explain it. How do you know how to swim? How do you teach a kid how to swim? It's hard to explain it, right? At that moment, it will just float and you just go. But before that, it's all the skill set. You just have to learn it. So at that stage, that in-between amorphous stage, I cannot explain it. It is quite a spiritual experience for me each time I write.
Thank you, Grace. Margit?
I think for me, the process, okay, I think it begins with an idea. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to write. I don't write from feelings. I think it's a very dangerous idea, at least for me, because I do believe that a poem should have an idea in it. And that's what I think. So when I write, I have something in mind. Maybe I have a destination or maybe I don't. And I have to figure out how to get there. I'm similar to Grace in a way that I usually write in the morning, if only because I think in the morning before I go to work, I don't really think about anything else and no one will be calling me or making any demands of me. So therefore, I have the space and time to write. I think in terms of the writing discipline, I do agree it's a skill, and it's something that you should try to do regularly. If not every day, then you should hone your craft as regularly as possible. I think it helps if you have a project, because if you tend to write every day, there will be a point when you'll ask yourself, oh, what am I going to write? And that will be the cause for writer's block. Whereas if you have a project, it will give you a stream of ideas, for you to write regularly. So, right now, I do have like multiple ongoing projects. One of which is a a poetry collection based on Noli Me Tangere, which is a book by Jose Rizal. Again, one of my obsessions. So what I'm doing is I'm writing a poem for every chapter of Noli Me Tangere. So that's 60 something chapters. So that gives me enough, I guess, fuel to write until I think about the next project. I think that's important for you to apply your discipline on something.
Project or deadline. Deadline. No, I mean like if you know that you have published a book at certain point.
Yeah, book.
Yeah.
Sure.
Or if a journal is asking you to submit something by a certain deadline, you push yourself forward.
Deadlines are very
important.
powerful.
Yeah, I like.
Without deadlines, you
Yeah.
wouldn't try it.
Yeah.
There's time to approach these authors during our wine and cheese. So please feel free to approach them if you have more questions, if you want them to read their poems again, or more of them. Can we thank Grace and Rodrigo for tonight?